right?
That's what came to mind for me when duality came up, was like so much philosophy has to do with like this world, right? Like monism and dualism or pluralism, it has to do with like the nature of things. But like one thing that really blew my mind, it took me a long time to get my head around with Krishna consciousness, is the, you know, that these things are happening within your consciousness. These things that like they're really, like the world is populated by your mind. The world is populated by your consciousness. It's not really happening outside. And we talk about Maya a lot when we talk about truth a lot. We talk about illusion and truth, right? That's a duality, apparently so. And for a long time I thought, like, you know, matter is Maya, and you know, Maya is like this room that I'm sitting in, it's this world that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
But in actual fact, Maya is happening in your consciousness.
Right.
The split is because we're conditioned and we're unable to recognize the truth, but actually truth is surrounding us all the time. And we just had a Nrsingadev's Chatterdasi. I don't remember if you guys were here for that.
We were last year on Sunday.
In May, it was just the earlier part of May. There was a festival, but maybe
It was
they
on the
didn't post.
it was on the 14th day of the moon.
They made it
Of
May, yeah.
of the waxing moon.
You guys were here. It was the festival of Nrsinga?
the half man, half lion incarnation of Krishna. Does that ring any bells?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't
Okay.
remember.
It has
No,
to
it's
be
in- it's in
posted.
Bhagavad
You need to remember
Purana.
to post these things.
But to make a long story short, there's a demonic personality who gets a boon from Lord Brahma, the creator of this universe, like a superpower, like a mystical
Like a
superpower.
gift, yeah.
And what he does is he says I don't want to die, and Brahma says, look man, you don't want to die.
Can
I
they hear?
can't do that for you. You know, I can't give you what I want now. He says, okay, how about this? I don't want to die in the day, and I don't want to die in the night. I don't want to die inside, and I don't want to die outside. I don't want to die in the
Night.
land, sea, or in the air.
By a weapon, blah blah blah.
Yeah, by a weapon or by bare hands. You know, he's coming up with all these categories.
Or I don't want to be killed by a man, a
Or
god,
beast.
an
Yeah.
animal.
And yeah, by a man, god, or animal. That's another one. And his son becomes a great devotee, and this enrages him, and he tries to kill his son, and he's in an intense argument with his son, and he's saying, you're saying that Krishna's everywhere, but I know that Krishna's powerless. And his son's going, no, how can you say this? And he says, you say Krishna's everywhere. He's in this pillar. This is a demon talking. He says, he's in this pillar right now. He says, yes, Krishna's everywhere. And he strikes the pillar, and Krishna comes out in the form of a half man and a half lion, and there's a terrible fight. And in the twilight of the day, in the threshold of the door, in the lap of Nrsingadev, the half man, half lion incarnation, with his claws, he rips his intestines
Puts them around
and
his
puts them
neck
around
as a
his garland
garland.
because he's so furious that this demon was torturing his devotee. But I was meditating on this, and I thought of this with duality, is this demoniac personality, this super intellect, right? Like an intellect steeped in Maya. You come up with all these dualistic categories of how to sort out the world, right? Like day and night, that encompasses all of time.
Yeah.
Inside, outside, that encompasses all of space. You know, like that's the way the intellect operates. And this story is one where Krishna
Great
incarnates
example.
and very handily and like all at once fits right in between all of these categories, finds a third term that is outside what appears to be all-encompassing dualities.
Wow, that's so interesting.
And so that came to mind for me.
And it's a fascinating thing.
That is a great
Because
example, bro.
Nrsingadev is not working within duality. Nrsingadev is the absolute truth. So he's not like, okay, well, let me figure this out. He said this and this, or whatever. It's all under his control. All the time. There's nothing outside of him at any time. So there's the oneness, is the divine will of Krishna. And the duality is, what is my relationship with that? Because I have free will. Do I want to love and come under the influence of that divine sweetness? Or do I want to be the Lord of what I'm, I want to be the center of my own existence and as many other people's existence as I can get. That's where free will has its full play. That question, because that's the initial question that brought us to this plane in the first place. Free will is so mysterious.
Yeah.
But it's there. We can feel it. If there's no free will, there's no individual.
You could
That's what
argue-
defines us as an individual.
You could just go in circles with this though, over and over and over.
Well, let's hear the circle. I think it's
I want to
important
hear the circle too.
because the circle gets closed, but it doesn't get closed with certainty.
Yeah.
It gets closed in relationship.
Yeah.
And that because ultimately you're not in an intellectual. There's a great quote. I have to figure out who says this. He goes,
Yes.
"The truth will not be known by intellect," and I only remember it. I really have to go back and look it up and find who said it. He goes, "The truth is only found in serving the will, and that gives taste." There's a greater flow that's happening that you're meant to come into connection with, but you can choose to do that or not. And then you can choose to play your games, and you can choose to lie, and you can choose to lie to yourself. You can choose to try to manipulate the world. You can try to impose your outcomes, try to exploit others. You can try to punish others who you see exploiting others. You can do all, whatever it is that kind of seizes your fancy. But there's something more wonderful, and it's found in relationship. There's a danger in free will. Sometimes Guru Maharaj says, we're like babies, and we've been given a dagger or a knife. And you can do a lot of good with a knife. You can also cut yourself, or you can cut others, right? And so it's like, why would you give a baby a knife, right? It's like this question of, why are you giving me free will? Like, seriously, me? Right? You can ask that. But Guru Maharaj says, the prospect of free will is so wonderful. Love requires free will. And he says, the capacity of the soul in love with the infinite is so wondrously inconceivable that every bad thing that you can do with free will becomes negligible.
Yeah.
That's how wonderful the prospect of free will is. So it's like this authentic seizing of our own intention. Most people live lives without intention, actually. People aren't lacking ability, and they're not lacking opportunity. They're actually lacking intention. And to go deep within yourself and to actually find your will and to meditatively put your intention somewhere, it's such a wonderful journey. And it's such an authentic and exciting way to live. And it modifies over time. But it's something that is actually you. And to put your intention toward a really high purpose, that's starting to really live. But you have to go inside yourself and you have to seize that thing that's been hijacked, which is the direction of your existence, And it can default into all kinds of junk, or it can be a brilliant light.
Oh. May I have it?
Yeah.
Maybe you could reiterate the discussion now that we're online.
Oh,
I mean,
Well,
like-
no.
Oh, no, because we don't know the
definitely
question.
have a lot to say.
Yeah,
And it will it's a circle, complete circle. in all dimensions. This is just correlating so much with my trip that I just went on. I went for 4 days alone to the desert in Utah like last week, and I've never done it before, and I just knew that I was supposed to, and literally just like an hour before this, Anna and I were talking, and I just like realized why I did that, and just, it's so confusing because there's so many connections I could make, but I was out there and I went to kind of face my mind's little habit that it's gotten into in my whole life of creating situations and literally envisioning them in my current state that make me unsafe. And it became like obsessive, and like it's awesome how my whole life has definitely fed me there, and I mean I made a lot of free will choices, but it's always aligning me back to the higher purpose that I'm actually open to. I'm sure you could make that distinction with people that are not so willing to dive a little deeper, but my body was out there trying to protect me, and my mind almost was like, I don't really have any business or experience in this realm of work. Like, my body knows exactly. And you could say body, that's like the
intuition.
Yeah, that's like the intellectual way of categorizing it, but it is my spirit. Like, it's not a physical feeling at all. And so it was just so cool because I just, in city life, like, it feels like your intuition is really difficult to reach because your mind is so quick to be like, oh, I know exactly what it is. And then it can come up with things for eternity. And then you're just left like drained and like, it's crazy. And so when I was out there trying to protect myself and, you know, stay on guard and still enjoy myself a bunch, like let down my guard, but it was like such a human experience that I really savored. And the divide between those two things, your mind's desire and honestly like addiction to understand and like use words and just make sense of it, be like, oh, I know, just became irrelevant. Because like, I'll give you this example. I first camped this opening to a canyon just like off of Highway 24. I just took a random dirt road in the BLM, opened a gate, and drove down, and this flower that I really love is fantastic plant, grows nowhere else in the entire world. Just has these, it's really short to the ground, the leaves lay on the ground, and it's sandy, gravelly, orange soil, and they're like bluish oval leaves, and they're just like, it's amazing. And the flowers smell like the most fragrant roses you've ever smelled in your life. They're yellow and they're stacking and there's velvet. It's beautiful. So this plant was lining the road to my campsite, and I had seen 2 red-tailed hawks flying, and they always tell me where I'm supposed to be. And I went on a hike in this canyon for like 4 hours right by my campsite, and I was feeling really good, and the mind is just quiet because everything else is so quiet, and I want to be able to listen in case I have to react. So there's no other choice in that situation. It was amazing. And I came to this really big opening in the canyon where I was in the middle of this clearing, and there's huge canyon walls on either side of me. And really quickly after it opened up, I had that feeling that's not physical, but it is kind of a little bit, my body reacts to it, where like, ooh, I don't feel as good right now. And so my body's like, well, what's wrong? Or my mind's like, well, what's wrong? Like, look how cool it gets past this clearing. Like, and I was seeing like some burnt junipers. It was just interesting energy. I was like, not sure if I needed to go further. My brain tried to rationalize it, and I ended up turning back around and just like going to sit with some junipers, and I was like, yeah, it's because in that clearing, my animal body is like, if there's anything up on these cliffs, it sees you, and you're in the middle of a clearing. And it's like, I wasn't in danger, but like, I was alone, it was my first time, so I was like, no, I'll just turn around. I have nothing to lose, like, I'm just putzing around. But it was just so interesting that I just had to play with that animal and mind while I was out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
You know, these are. That's an interesting practice, right? Because I think all of us have gone into nature at some point and had a lot of noise and static kind of go out of our mind and have a little bit more clarity of our thought. And you know, we're on this weird thing. We're trying to we're searching for something. And we don't even quite know what it is, but we know that we don't have it. And, you know, one of the important principles of Bhakti Yoga is that you don't exist randomly. You're a particle of Shakti. Shakti means potency or energy. Jiva Shakti means the soul itself is a potency of reality. It's an energy of reality among many different energies. And when you exist as an individual soul, you exist for a reason, right? And you're not here randomly, and your contribution to reality matters.
Yeah.
So Bhakti Yoga is saying you have to seek your contribution. You have to seek your participation with the motion of this reality. You have something to contribute. You have something to sacrifice. You have some authentic expression of the gift of you to reality. It's actually true. Your life is not meaningless. It is meaningful. And it's going to be found in sacrifice and service. That is a wonderful thing to help the meditation, right? Because otherwise the patterns can come in and be like, I have to protect myself.
Yeah.
Or the pattern can come in and be like, no, that's dangerous, right?
Or you're not doing it right. Like you're not doing
Yeah.
it the right way.
Or how can I even, really, I can't do this,
Yeah.
right? There's all kinds of little junk that's in the way of that. But when you conceive of yourself as a participant and a contributor in a wonderful divine play of love, that's an idea of yourself that you want to move toward. And now you have something to move toward. And then the practices can become meaningful. Practices outside of of becoming an identity, they lack context. They become mechanical, right? You're just doing something. But actually what you're doing is you're becoming someone. And the practice has to be seen in the context of that motion into being that ideal. So, one of the things Mahaprabhu said is, Jivara Sarubohai Krishna Nitidas. Okay, the real form of yourself is to be a servant of God. Well, that's an interesting thing. Because when I think about my own mind, right now, I'm going good Lord, I got $50 on the Knicks tonight, I really hope they win. What am I actually conceiving? You know what I mean? And, if you start to think, okay, I want to be a servant of this play. I want to be a giver that is not giving out of fear, that is not miserly in my expression of my life. You know, like I don't give, 10 minutes of energy to something and then it doesn't work out and go, I spent 10 minutes. I'm only making fun of myself, to be honest, because, those are like patterns that you start to notice in yourself where you're like, I'm like mad at my kid because I spent 10 minutes doing something and it's like, well, now look at it, it's all over the floor, But you can easily just go, oh, I give it, right? And now you're joyous, you're fine. Give your energy, you're not going to be the loser, right? And seek for that. And then your practice can move you into that, right? Now you have like this idea of becoming that places everything in context. So if you make a sacrifice, whether conscious or unconscious, sometimes life takes a sacrifice out of you. You might try for something that doesn't work out. And now you say, well, actually, that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to be a person who just gives my energy, whether it comes, back to me or not. Now all of a sudden that thing that the previous you would be like, oh, it's so unfair. It's actually because of her, and I'm going to get her back. Or whatever, these like patterns that we get into. You can be like, okay, I didn't get it back. That's actually who I want to be. I want to be a person who gives everything, doesn't get it back, and smiles.
Right.
Now the whole thing has passed you by. You're not stuck in that at all. And some wonderful interaction just happened with reality. And you will be noticed. Oh, what a person. They just gave an hour of their time. Or they just gave, at least 40 calories of their energy. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. Like, you're going to start to have relationship. And it's not going to be theoretical. And I know that you already have relationship, right? We already all have, like you drive down a random road and all the flowers that are absolutely unique and are wonderful and not a guaranteed thing to find are there to greet you and say, hello. Like, that's relationship. And you have to see the Lord within those things. You cannot just experience them as like, great, something for me to enjoy. It's like, ooh, what a wonderful gift.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now you're living in a unified field where it's not just you and the flower, it's you and the flower and divine consciousness. And the flower is populated by divine consciousness, and you're populated by divine consciousness. And there's some experience of taste, of interaction that you're serving, and a part of maybe even creating. But you have to be idealizing, and this ideal refines and refines as you move forward, but some idealizing of a you that you're becoming that places everything into a context.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do a practice like chanting for half an hour every day, right? You're doing that so you can imbue your day with some consciousness of God. So that when a circumstance occurs where you meet someone, you don't just meet that person. You also think to the Lord, ooh, I'm meeting this person. What's my service? Oh, they're saying something to me. Why do you want me to hear this? Right now your life is becoming fully alive and magical because you're conceiving of this person that you want to become, and then everything in your life can be a part of that practice to become that person.
Yes. Can I please say something?
Sure.
This is relating exactly to what you were saying about, like, I don't want to die in the day and I don't want to die in the night. It's exactly the same because when you put things in boxes, you leave only a little bit of room for that God, creator energy to actually give you what you need. Where when you're trying to control the outcome, you're like, oh,
Yes.
I know, this is exactly what I need. But then
That's it.
Then he has to come through the middle instead of having the whole entire availability of options. And like Another thing I wanted to say was I love this concept. It's a book you should all read. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass. And she talks, this was like one of the chapters that struck me the most, because in my exploration of plants, it's very easy for the brain to say, oh, this family, this genus, this species, this name, this is related to this, and its leaves look just like this one because they're in the same family. I know it by name, and it's so easy to get stuck in that loop, because then you're walking on a trail in the middle of this beautiful forest with so many creatures, and you're like, oh, this is Hoffman Segier repens, and then you're like, okay, what the hell does that mean? Like, it strips it of its character and its nature and its animacy completely when you replace what it actually is with just a random word.
With a label, yeah.
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 And finally, I mean, I mean, just from my own feelings and experiences and, you know, what we've been taught also, but there is some dignity in reality that's made of a higher thing than I'm made out of. Because everything is conscious. And everything, when the shadow comes over, when the shadow is removed from the plane of consciousness, we can see that everything exists for Krishna and it knows it.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist for me on any level. That's like saying you exist for me. That's gross. That's a gross thing to say to you. But the whole of reality doesn't exist for me. And how will I know you if I think that?
Yeah.
I won't. And we don't actually know what's around us until we can come to the plane where we can see that it all exists consciously for pleasing the absolute reality, who is also a person. But he's the supreme person. And then we can feel a different kind of affection around us than we have ever known before. Far beyond what we can perceive on the mental level, on the intellectual level, or on the sensual level. The plane of exploitation is called chidabhas. It means it places a shadow between our perception and what is really there. We can't renounce it, saying it's bad, it's just illusion, and we can't exploit it. We can only come into the plane of wanting to serve like a child, and be surrounded by the most wonderful guardians. Then we can begin to feel the sweetness of reality. Exploitation, it's just not clear. It's not done yet. We haven't fully understood what reality is. So, I mean, all these things are like super, super important, like steps on the path where you can begin to like shed so many of these goofy, like control things. But I would just add, can I add something about this Krishna Das Kaviraj, those golden books on the top shelf? Those are the greatest expressions of reality that have ever existed in all time and in all space. And this is said by sages who know everything. So Krishna Das Kaviraj, completely moving in devotion, has written down the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he said a prayer to the Lord. He said, yesterday you made me dance. Means you made me write this thing. And today you've stopped my dancing. That much letting go. But letting go to what? To his supreme will, which is the music of the heart that we are all looking for. So that's just something.
Wow, that's really beautiful.
Duh.
Really good.
Very awesome. I like something that you said, that if we're imposing our idea on the flow of reality, we're not making space for something to occur outside of our particular prejudice that may actually be so good and what we need.
Which is really what we want.
Which is really what we
It's
want.
not us.
And that is actual liberalness, not in the political sense that we use the term today, but mean honest openness. There's one of the most profound two verses are in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Purana. And the second verse is Dharma Projita Kaita Votra Paramo Nirmat Saranam Satam. And it's talking about, here's what this book is about. Dharma Projita Kaitava means this book has no, what's called Kaitava Dharma. Kaitava Dharma means external religion. Means a bunch of rules for maintaining a good external life. But this book has none of that. Pretty bold statement, right? And then it says, Nirmat Saranam Satam. Satam means truth. And it says the truth can be perceived by those without matsarya. Matsarya means envy, generally, is what it's translated as. But matsarya means what things are should not be. If you're envious of someone, what does it mean? Oh, look at her, why does she have that? That shouldn't have that. She shouldn't have that, I should have that, right? But it has this idea of like, whatever that is, that shouldn't be. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? If you're thinking and interacting with reality like that, then you can't see the truth. Because you're constantly placing your prejudice on top of it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that matsarya, then you can actually perceive reality for what it is. You have to stop this pattern of imposition and suspicion. Oh no, this might happen. Oh, I really want this to happen. There's something more wonderful. And the truth can only be known by those who are seeing it as it is, rather than imposing their fears or imposing their desires upon it. And so, like, that practice that you talked about, let it be. Sometimes, I don't remember who said this either. There was another way of saying make space for grace. There's something graceful occurring. And you have to make space for it. And that's you could say the overall philosophical kind of like hole in the ground of Vaishnavism is something good is occurring. Because we can all look at the world, we're all really good at it at this point. And I can lay out 500 things that I would say is wrong with the world. And you might look at my 500 things and be like, well, actually about half of those are good, actually. But here's my 500 things. You know what I mean? And we're all just like in this thing where we're like, everything's wrong. But there's a perspective that's saying, it's okay. It's all an emotion. It's way bigger than this particular slice of the movie. And everybody has a big, long history leading up to this point, and everyone has a future that's going somewhere more wonderful. And you have to see that in a deeper way. So to start to interact with life in a way that we can drop our suspicion, and to participate and give and experience what it gives to us with the knowledge that it's good. Even if it's painful, even if it appears like an obstacle, to see sweetness behind that. that allows you to actually live. Otherwise, you're just in this state of combat and this state of fear, this state of imposition. You have to find out the truth that within the motion of reality, you're not forgotten. Your prospect is contained in that, and you have also something to give to that, to yourself, to the Lord, and to others around you. And it's the same life, maybe, but it's a totally different life. And that's why this is the deepest yoga, because you're not doing something superficial, you're doing something eternal. You're doing something very, very profound and a real stretch inside of yourself. So,
It's so
I just appreciate that.
I appreciate what you were saying, Sue, about, you know, my 500 things, your 500 things are different from my 500 things and all that. Because I have a big problem that I'm constantly battling with, that I see something happening, someone is causing pain to someone else. And it really bothers me, like to a tremendous degree. But if you ask me about this, I can tell you a whole lot of wonderful things. Jai Mahaprabhu, Jai Shri Raju, Jai. But that's just nonsense. But emotionally, I'm super attached to that. And that is not, it is such, it's like I can't see past my hand.
Yeah.
Such a stunted way of looking at things. But it's I can feel that every time I'm thinking, oh no, this person said that to that person, and that person's really no. When I can just settle my mind down and remember the instructions of our, you know, the most exalted personalities who've ever set their feet on this world, and saying, you must offer everything to the infinite and let him mold it in his own way, and he will give you the result. You must do this. There is no other solution to anyone's problem. Stop trying to fix things. You can't fix the ocean. It's going to be wet, it's going to be dangerous, it's going to be dark, it's going to be restless. There's nothing you can do to fix that. You must come out. This is just the wrong place. But so give the real solution, that we need to find our connection with the center of everything and be in harmony with that. And try to share that. I challenge anyone to tell me another solution. There isn't one. This is supreme reality, and it solves all problems at once.
Yeah.
Sharanagati.
I have a question. So we're talking about like enviousness towards the environment. We're talking about like feeling a certain way about reality. A couple things come to mind. For one, like the field, right? The field versus the knower of the field. Like the self is not the body, but the self is also not emotion and intelligence and all these other things that we identify with. And then also, Krishna says, I am truth and untruth. So I'm wondering, like reality. What about like my addictions? What about my prejudices? What about my conditioning that I asked for? Is that meaningful? How does that fit into this picture?
Yeah.
Can I clarify your question?
We've
Yeah,
got some
please,
real
yeah.
stellar questions going on
Yeah,
here.
you guys are very deep thinkers.
Insane.
Just to clarify what you're saying, if everything exists within the Lord, don't my addictions and all my problems also exist within that? Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm saying. And if everything is good, are those good too?
Yes.
Well,
From the absolute
so
sense.
from the absolute perspective, yes. But you're the one experiencing it. So, for example, it's funny. I saw this clip of a technologist talking about peace. Okay, this person is actually disturbed quite a bit all the time. Like they have anxiety, they got other kinds of things. And he's trying to harmonize all this within himself. And he said, I wonder if calmness and peace are not actually what we're going for here. He said, because if we're all at peace, would we ever make anything new and interesting? If we're all just calm, would anything exciting happen? So that tells you these things, you guys are talking about duality. Duality is actually necessary for the experience of variety.
Yeah.
And highness and lowness, pleasure is only experienced as an opposite of pain.
Yeah.
Lightness and darkness have meaning because they both exist. They're all necessary. The soul exerting its own free will to choose to not be controlled by urges is the essence of the exertion of free will. Right? You have to be susceptible to having your free will controlled by patterns to have a definition of what it means to not be.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
free will means you can go the wrong way.
Yeah.
You can make the bad decision.
Free will means there has to be a bad decision to make in order to make a good one. Right? Because otherwise, if it's all good decisions, then it's kind of like, well, what are you exactly free willing?
Yeah.
There has to be like even within ourselves right now, if we actually try to go within ourselves and define intention in our life, we're going to feel resistance inside of ourselves like we've never felt.
That's true, yeah.
And so I'll just to finish this point, what does that mean? It means your intention has value in the fact that it can also be subsumed,
Yeah.
right? Captured and dissipated. So all of these opposites, these polarities, they exist within the unity. For what? The purpose of feeling.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Right? So feeling is this very deep thing, rasa. And rasa is what the whole push is, right? There's some churning that's necessary. There's always going to be some sacrifice that's necessary to actually experience what the juice of existence is. Okay, please, Zoe.
I love what you're saying. Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah, like you said, all duality exists within unity, because your explanation of a bad decision, how could it ever be a bad decision if it leads you to a good decision? Yes, there has to be that distinction, because you have a good or a bad feeling, but ultimately where it's leading will always be impeccable. Never bad. It never could be.
Right, and maybe, like your, it's just like what Gurumar was just saying. You can see people, if you go outside for 5 minutes, you're going to see someone who's really abused their free will.
Yeah.
right? And they've ended up in a place where they almost barely have it. They've allowed it to be controlled by anger. They've allowed it to be controlled by addiction, right? They've allowed that little dopamine cycle to get completely out of control. And now, instead of them making it happen, it's absolutely controlling you, right? You can say, okay, those are all bad. Well, yeah, because you have to be able to go down
Yeah.
to that in order to seek something different. But the you know, if you talk to someone at a particular stage of addiction, they do not want you to stop them,
Yeah.
right? And at an even lower stage, maybe they do want you to stop them. But what they're doing is they're deciding to use a particular lifetime to go all the way down that path. You know, where the heck does this go? I mean, could I smoke more crack? You know what I mean? Could I just become could I become crack? You know, or whatever it is. Like, they're trying to see what the absolute zenith of experience is, and they've chosen to pursue it that way.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to go, man, this is really not that great, actually. But if God is just like, nope, you can't go down that. That's crack road, right? Then you're not free. And the process of, taking, getting off of crack road, that's also going to require sacrifice. It's going to be meaningful. It's going to have to, you're going to have to exert intention.
Yeah.
And you're also going to have to call out for relationship.
Yeah.
Because you cannot do that. Now you've gotten yourself so illusioned that you're going to have to actually know what it means to have some help.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bow down your pride and ask for help from a higher authority. There's not a single addiction program on the planet that doesn't do that. You have now put yourself in a place where that relationship has to become something that's real in your life. So in that sense, what ends up happening? The exertion of free will and the calling out for relationship. Okay, it's good. Right? And it's also like, however many, whatever, you now know what the full world of the taste of crack is. You did it all, buddy. Go ahead, Anna. Sorry.
Yeah, I just had a thought, during these endeavors of, the human will that are not in relationship with the Lord, it can really feel like the Lord is not there with you.
Yeah.
You can feel so alone and so scared.
Yeah.
And my question, I don't even know if it's a question. I feel so obliged to think that the Lord is always with you, and even on those dark and treacherous adventures, He's there with you, accompanying you, protecting you, so that you might know that other side.
Yeah.
And that is the gift of the Lord.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
So sweet.
very intense.
it's I don't know, I work with kids and I do this sometimes when they're really throwing a fit. It's I'll talk to you when you're ready to stop crying. It's exactly like that. Always nearby. If you ever do choose to call out to the higher power, you can always attain it, but you have to be willing to realize I cannot do this by myself, and that
Yeah.
takes a lot of courage and sacrifice.
Yeah, it's just such a beautiful point, and people have to come to that point. I mean, this is the primacy of love. It's like if I come up to you and you're like, "Hey, love me now," you're gonna be like, "Ugh," right? Love has to be an authentic expression of free will. It has to be, and the Lord is going to allow you to run in this infinite world, up and down. Like the Bengali, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagavan Jeev. We have been wandering universes. And we didn't just go down Crack Street. We've been down a lot of streets. Okay? And we're coming to a particular place right now where something very deep and wonderful is actually speaking to us. You come to a place where you can hear that.
And then
But-
group comes.
And then some grace. You know, you've made space for grace, right? You're actually seeking relationship. But you can run down roads and cut the Lord off. And then all of a sudden you're really in pain and you're like, why did you do this to me, God? You know, in your like victim pattern. You're like blaming your parents and blaming this and blaming that and blah, 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 whatever it is, whoever it is that you blame. I don't know who you know, we've all got the blame ninja that we're like, what's your fault? But at some point the games stop and you're like, oh my God, I'm the tyrant. I'm the abuser.
Yeah.
I'm the exploiter. It's me. Help me, Lord. And now you're on a rocket ship towards something wonderful. Just one moment of truth. One moment of honesty, a real prayer. But the Lord will let you run away from Him as long as you want. But He is always there.
And He's
as you said.
waiting.
He's waiting.
It reminds me of something you said, Sri Lake, that Vishnu is creating universes with the atoms of his breath. And all of that is for the souls who decided to forget, the ones who wanted to have control. That's what we're doing here. We wanted to have control. All of these universes furnishing whatever we want to do, whatever crack road we want to go down.
We can't even forget Him without His help.
Yeah, and how merciful is that? He's creating all of these universes just for us to inhabit.
Well, what's wonderful is that, so I mean, there's consciousness at the basis of that. So like, you know, Guru Maharaj would say, it's like, you're experiencing the universe, I'm experiencing the universe, she's experiencing, we're all experiencing the universe, and we're all experiencing a different universe.
Yeah.
And that's what's wonderful. It's like, it's a place where if you want to be an exploiter, it's a whole land of exploitation. Like Guru Maharaj says, for someone who's addicted to relationships, you know, sexual relationships, they'll look at the world and all they can see is possibilities for that. Right? Someone addicted to money, they're going to look at the world and go, oh my God, all these business opportunities. Right? And that's the world they're in. Right? Somebody who's a lover of the Lord, they're going to look at the world and go, oh my Lord, you're so wonderful. Wow. Right? It's just all the same world. And that's the like wonderful thing about reality, is that it's all just these planes of consciousness.
And what I'm thinking as we're talking here is like, these aren't like worlds of consciousness that are created like, yeah, go there and stay there. Like, you want to forget me? I don't want to. I'll forget you. Yeah. It's like, this is where we go, and He's waiting for us to come back. Like, how incredible is that?
Yeah. Ever calling the fallen conditioned souls. That's it. There's a verse in the most ancient book in the world is called Brahma Samhita, which we have here. We could start doing a class on that and memorize it if you want. But it's a very beautiful book. I mean, unbelievable. Chintamani prakara satmasu kalpa vriksha likshavateshu surabhi ramipalayantam. Like beautiful verses. You know, and Srila Saraswati Thakur, he explained one verse, he's saying, the materialistic demeanor cannot stretch. If we are exploiting, that demeanor cannot stretch to the transcendental autocrat who is ever calling the fallen conditioned souls to associate with him through devotion our eternal serving mood. It's within us. That potential is within us. And to think that we have an aversion to that, and to really, by the practice of Sharanagati, start to see that about ourselves, it's reprehensible. There is nothing about Krishna that is suspect. He is that person we are all looking for. He is sweetness personified. So loving. You know, there's so much to say about that, but I don't even know why I said that. But
Well,
anyway.
maybe because it's true. Yeah. Anyways, these are interesting things, you know. To ponder duality, which is kind of where we started, right? To ponder the extremes of life. To ponder the extremes that we've already felt in our own lives. And to understand that we're going to live a life for the rest of the evening tonight, and we're going to live a life tomorrow, and so on and so forth forever. To root our consciousness, to really ground ourselves in a progressive stance every day, internally. Again, the external yoga is moving to the internal yoga. Welcome the day. Be grateful. Offer yourself to what you know you have to do today and to all the unknown things that are going to happen today, right? Live a life of intention. See joy. See goodness, even in the obstacles. There's a posture of Bhakti Yoga that's very, very sweet. And it's relevant, really and truly, to every moment of your life. And then there's things that are going to come up inside us where we feel our resistance, you know, where we feel our pattern welling up. You know, we might have a difficult relationship where this person is constantly annoying the heck out of us, or annoying even worse things out of us. And like, okay, now you gotta deal with it. Now it's not like theory time, right?
Yeah.
Now this person is like in mid-annoyance and you're in mid whatever your pattern reaction is of like, how about you stop being the worst person in the history of Earth, please? And that has to be brought alive, right? That has to be seen from another perspective. You know, and all these kinds of things have to start moving. And we have to practice sacrifice. Like, actually practice it. You know, that's one of the reasons why, I mean, like, Jagranga works his butt off, okay? He does very physical work. He's exhausted right now. What's he doing? He's cooking a dinner for all of us and ultimately an offering for Mahaprabhu. Why is he doing that? He's practicing sacrifice in his life. He's practicing giving. He's practicing offering his abilities and his time to all of us and to the Lord. Even when he, you know, I'm sure there's some resistance in his mind going like, dang, I just want to lay around tonight. You know what I mean? Because you're freaking smashed. Of course, maybe not with him. That's what would happen to me. But, you know, that is where these things become moving out of like theory and a meaningful practice toward becoming this person I want to become. Should we do Hari Har? Go ahead.
Oh, can I just say one more
Yeah.
thing? So I was just thinking, just to summarize, the unity and duality. So we have this duality, good and bad. What should I do? What should I not do? What's going to take me down the wrong road? What's going to be elevating for me? But the unity is Krishna's offering those choices and our free will. That they're both coming from him. And even in the midst of my lowest point of a bad decision, Jai Mahaprabhu, Jai, Jai Gurudev, Jai, Jai Gira, Jai Gita. Even in the lowest point of my bad decision, as you guys were saying, that person is there. And we just say, my Lord, I'm suffering like my head's on fire, and that is good for me. It is your grace. It is sweet. Guru Maharaj said, you will see the smiling face behind the veil. The smiling face of the supreme absolute personality of Godhead is behind every movement. Whether the leaf is going this way or this way is of infinite significance. His sweet will is behind that, and we simply have to find that. The absolute center everywhere, no circumference. Haribol.
Haribol.
Wow, nice assembly.
All right, Prashadam's ready.
Done. Sing like the short
Do
version.
it very
of
short.
it,
How
or-
many Krishna? Page. What page is it now?
Page, I don't know,
66.
60.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Chaitanya Saraswati Ki Jai,
Jai.
Jai Mahaprasad Ki Jai,
Jai.
all the devotees, and Friday night.
Friday night program. It's
Go
all
Premanande,
business.
Haribo, Haribo.
Friday night, TGIF.
I know, right? TGIFNP.
What's that?
Thank God it's the Friday night program.
Oh, that's amazing.
And thank God for our
I am
broadcaster.
You made me practice try negative for you.
Yeah, but it's so good.
It's hard not to.
What was that?
Share.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to